Saturday, July 21, 2018. This is Mercedes Diesel Guy, and this is my 1998 Volvo V70 GLT project car. I haven't actually done anything on the car in well over a week now. Last weekend, the family and I were away camping, and this past week I've just been busy with work and home stuff. But this Wednesday evening, I actually met up with somebody selling parts through a Facebook Marketplace ad, and I purchased some parts for this car. There you can see the replacement radiator. I actually was able to pull this as a unit with the radiator, the intercooler, and the AC. I think it's the condenser setup. AC is not my strong point. So there's that, and I got a whole bunch of other parts too. I actually got a correct color mirror, which does need to be cleaned up, and some other parts here, and I also got a fuel filler door, which I will show you. So here it is. I have the hinge disconnected from it, but you can see, I got a fuel filter door in the correct color for the car. So I've been tempted a few times this week to come out here and give the car a good heavy cleaning, and or to install some of the parts I got, for example the fuel filler door or the mirror, but I actually had to stop myself a couple of times. Essentially, this car is still a pretty big unknown. As I've said in previous videos, I was able to start and run the car for about 1 second, so I have really not been able to properly verify anything mechanical on the car. And the long and the short of it is, I didn't want to do a whole bunch of work on cleaning and trim, only to find the car was a complete piece of junk and needs to be parted out. So I didn't want to waste any time or money. And believe me, I find it a bit funny too that I bought some trim pieces for a car that I don't even know if the whole car is any good yet. But once again, that's a matter of right place, right time, almost the right price, and definitely parts in the right. So I figured I'd snap those up, but just because they were there and they were correct for this car. So my goal for today is to get the radiator in here and see if I can verify the overall mechanical condition of the car. I mean, I'm certainly anticipating that it'll need something, probably a tune-up and who knows what else. Certainly fluid changes, and as I work through the car, I'll see what. But before I do anything, I need to verify that the engine's good, the transmission's good, and essentially I go from there. So I'm going to get started, and hopefully it won't take me too long to get the radiator in. I'm debating whether or not I should pull the core support, which I did on Wednesday from the parts car that I took the radiator from. But that parts car also had the front bumper off, so I'm not sure if it's even going to be possible for me to get the radiator support out without taking off the bumper, which I don't want to do. So I'm going to get started here, and hopefully by the end of the day I'll be able to verify that the car is running. Because, as I said, if this car ends up needing major repairs, I'm just going to cut my losses, part it out, probably come out a little bit ahead, but nowhere near as ahead as I'd hoped. Okay, well, I've got to call it a day, but as you can see, I do have the radiator in and mounted. It really was kind of a challenge getting it in here today, especially since you can't really see it, but down here on the, I guess for lack of a better word, the frame rail, there is supposed to be a nut welded on there, and the radiator bolts in from the bottom to that nut. The problem is those apparently were broken off on this car, and I can't really blame the previous owner of the car who took the radiator out, because the same exact thing had happened to me on Wednesday when I pulled the radiator out of that parts car. Anyhow, so I just used some nuts and bolts that I had on hand, and the radiator is secured in place where it's supposed to be. I'm not done hooking it up yet. It's certainly not plumbed. I haven't hooked up the coolant lines, I haven't hooked up the engine oil cooler lines, I haven't hooked up the transmission fluid cooler lines, and I haven't hooked up any of this miscellaneous stuff over here yet. Thankfully, I do have my S70 and the other V70 to use as a reference for that stuff, because not all of it's obvious. And I also haven't hooked up the intercooler. So I got to call it a day here. Hopefully tomorrow I can get back to this. The other thing worth mentioning is I did take a quick afternoon break to go to the junkyard, and I did get some cool pieces here. I did get a cargo mat here. This is going to go into my wife's V70, and a couple of miscellaneous bits. A good washer cap. I always pick up a spare fuel pump relay, battery clip, which I didn't have, and this vent tube here. Now I may have 2 or 3. I'm not sure. I know I got one in pretty terrible condition from the parts car on Wednesday. I'm not sure if I have the one for this car. And also, here in the back, you can see I have all these trunk trim pieces, and I got those for a reason. This car here came with the third row seat, but it's not original to the car. The previous owner of the car had installed the third row seat and had done a poor job with the installation. There's supposed to be it's supposed to be able to clip into the seat back, and we don't have the right seat back for that. So the previous owner had been using a bungee cord to secure it, and one of the seat belts is not mounted properly, and I don't know how to do that correctly. So I decided actually to take all this stuff out and put this car back to the way it was, because this car here was originally not equipped with a rear seat, and you can see I've got all the trunk panels to do it. So these actually are in really beautiful shape, these trunk panels. These may go into my wife's V70, and I may take those trunk panels and put them in here because they're in better shape than what's in this car, but not perfect. So anyhow, like I said, I'm calling it a day here. Hopefully the weather's not too bad tomorrow and I can get back to this. So this is Mercedes Diesel Guy. Thanks for watching.